Hey, everybody. This is the Quantum Mystic podcast, and I am here today with my bestie Jane. And we're gonna be talking about a conversation that really I think touches such a deep layer of our healing, and that is sacred reparenting. So many of us are still living from patterns that we formed when we were very young, long before we had the world's words or tools to help us understand what was happening with our internal experiences, what we really need. And that all that stuff gets lands right in our subconscious and then kind of rules our life or jacks up our life from the sidelines until we kind of unpick it. And here's kind of a truth I want you to think about. Your inner child doesn't need to be fixed, analyzed, talked out of their feelings. What they really need is safety, consistency, the quiet, grounded presence of someone who finally stays. And here is the news flash, folks. That person is you. It's always you. It can only ever be you. And here's another thing I want to be honest about. I literally wrote the book on this one. So my new book, Sacred Reparenting, is coming out December 1st, 2026. Super stoked for that. And today's episode is kind of a little juicy first taste of the work that I've been teaching and living for decades. And at the heart of this, the biggest piece of this work is learning how to become our own internal loving parent and stopping the superhuman habit of putting our needs onto everybody else and sort of expecting them to caretake us. So our real job in our healing is to own our needs, our own desires, our feelings, to take full responsibility for all of that and to stop expecting our parents, our partners, our friends, our families to caretake our inner kiddos for us. This is where emotional and nervous system regulation come in. This is what we talk about all the time on this podcast, because when you can actually be with your own little one, soothe them from the inside, your inner child stops leaking out all over your relationships and your life, which we know that doesn't go too well, right? So let's come together, pour yourself a nice, warm, cozy cup of tea and settle in with us. This is a conversation that I think is going to stick with you.
Awesome. This is a really good topic, especially because you literally did write the book.
I literally did, yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for if you're listening live, say hi, write a comment, let us know where you're listening from. Join in the conversation because this is a really, really good opportunity to ask questions and let us know, if you have any questions about reparenting and inner child work and how to do it, this is a great opportunity. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. So yeah, this is, I think that for me, really embodying and understanding what it means that your inner child doesn't need to be fixed. I mean, that's sort of like the pivot point, right? That's where everything is like, oh, okay. It's again, I'm not broken, doesn't need to be fixed. We're just meeting our inner child where they are. And it happens in the present moment. And,
That's right.
Fixing implies there's something wrong, and meeting implies that someone has been waiting, and we, the adult, the whole and healed adult, as best as we can, is finally showing up for ourselves, for that part of ourselves. And Alyssa, hello from Colorado. Anna, hello from London. Cindy from Mass, thanks. Hello, vulnerable teachers. Cindy, always
Wow.
good to have you. Yeah.
Yeah, always good to see you guys. Yeah, I think it's really an important distinction that I like to make is it's not about like blaming the past or really staying stuck and reliving in old wounds, because I think we can kind of get trapped in the kind of recycling, and I think we do need to spend a minute or more than a minute looking at what happened in our childhood, because when we grow up in a certain like in certain environment in our childhoods, it can just sort of seem like normal. Like we can live in really, really dysfunctional patterns and situations and just be like, well, that's just what my family was like, you know?
Yeah.
And I think as adults, when we revisit, there can be this like penny drop moment where we look back on it and we go, oh shoot, that's actually really messed up. Like
Yeah.
what I thought was, and so I think they're, thinking about it, there's kind of like taking the veil off of our eyes and seeing reality, like seeing what really happened from that sort of objective place can be quite sobering, right?
Mhm.
I don't think it's really about getting stuck in that, I think we
Right.
need to know what we need to know and then go back into like, reclaiming those parts, those lost parts of us that can get lost in our childhood by, like you said, being in the present moment, and attending to our inner child. First of all, noticing when the inner child is there and
Mhm.
attending to that inner child like any other part of you, any other, like it's a part of you. It's not all of you, it's a part of you. And breaking the pattern of neglect, abandonment, that, whatever your flavor of wound that you got as a child, we break that by every day. And for me, it's been an every day for 25 years thing, brush your teeth, wash your hair, attend to the inner child, like meditate, like it's part of my daily practice that keeps me functional, on track, happy, joyful. It's not something that I ever stop doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like reparenting really means repatterning in the present moment.
Mhm.
And like you said, going we can go back. It's important to go back, at some point and maybe just bring awareness. It's like we talk about this a lot on this
Yeah.
podcast. All it takes is awareness. But sometimes, we've all heard about, being in talk therapy for like 20 years and kind of not moving the needle. It's because oftentimes we're just kind of looping and almost re-traumatizing. But bringing
Yeah.
that awareness and sitting with, what that maybe 3-year-old self, or that 6-year-old self, or that, 16-year-old self was feeling at that time, and sort of accessing those emotions or that experience, and then understanding where that's living in our nervous system in the present moment,
Mhm.
is that reparenting.
Yeah.
It's about doing that, like you said, it's that daily, um, quiet, really sacred practice of giving yourself what you needed then, right now, whether it's
Yeah.
like safety or consistency or presence or compassion, um, you know, without conditions. um, and 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 that's, like when we think about what a good parent actually does, because I think we all on some level can do this, even if it means watching like a show and seeing like, obviously they're actors, but often there's like sitcoms where they're the perfect parents. And it
Mhm.
gives us the imagination of, "Oh," I swear it's sometimes we
Oh,
just need an understanding of what.
Ma and Pa from Little House on the Prairie
Yes.
was like I mean, that's, I just gave away my age there, but,
I
like,
love Lost, oh my god.
I mean, yeah, that was like the Ma and Pa, like the perfect TV parents, or,
Yeah.
but there's so many great media parents when we don't have that pattern. If you didn't
Yeah.
have that and you don't have like an image of what good parents would be like, then going to the media, I think, is a really great idea. In fact, I wrote a whole chapter about that in my book.
You
Uh,
did?
yes, I did.
I haven't read her book, so guys, we haven't
And
talked about this.
and so like how can we pull from archetypes or from media, TV, movies to create I have a whole chapter on creating a loving internal parent. And
Oh,
what do we do like when we don't have a model for that? And that's what I recommend.
that's awesome.
Jane, you and I are like like as always.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
And the example, is like that a good parent, will just quote unquote good parent, a healed parent, they don't lecture a child who's crying. they'll sit with them. They say, I see you, I'm here. Like, you're not alone in this. And they show up the same way, like on a Tuesday as they do on a Sunday, and they keep their promises. And that's what we're learning to do for ourselves in the present moment. Again, for ourselves, the adult who is healing this part of our nervous system and these parts of ourselves. And so it's like in real time, when you feel like a spiral of anxiety start, the reparenting says to like just pause and place your hand on your chest and breathe. And instead of that old voice that says like, why are you like this? We say to ourselves, I understand why you feel this way. I've got you. Like,
Right.
And that for me, that's part of the reparenting. And I just want to say, Alyssa, how do we distinguish trauma's voice from the inner child? How do I know if my anxiety is my inner child needing something versus my nervous system repeating a pattern?
My answer is there's no difference.
Yeah.
It is the answer is your inner child. Like whatever question you ask, the answer is your inner child.
Yeah.
And I think the inner child, the important part here is your inner child. It's an archetype, and every archetype has two sides to it, really, the light side and the shadow side. So the shadow side of the inner child holds all the unprocessed wounds of our childhood. So it's always, until we do the healing work, it's walking around in sort of a wounded, traumatized state. And the light side of the inner child is the part that's never been wounded. It's the part that's like the purest reflection of your soul's. It's like the closest archetype I think we have to the purest essence of our soul. And if you look at little children, when they're happy and playing, we can see that pure essence in action, right? So it's sort of what Jane was saying. It doesn't matter. It is your inner child, and you work on your nervous system. You work on emotional regulation, nervous system regulation. So getting the nervous system out of fight or flight, and then finding a healthy way to process your emotions in the moment. Like if you have anxiety, maybe you tap, maybe you meditate, maybe you do some breathing, do some box breathing, do some 4-8 breathing. And those things in the moment, like if somebody gave you like a freaked out foster child to take care of, what would you do? You would moment by moment create safety, validate. I think there's really only 3 or 4 steps to inner child work, and it's not hard to do. The hard thing about it is doing it on a consistent basis. But noticing that the inner child needs something is sort of step number 1. Validating the feelings, like whatever you're feeling, it's okay to be sad, mad. It's okay. Like I see that you're having feelings. Getting the adult part of yourself to come in and do the thing, switching hats, switching archetypes, so that you don't force your inner child to show up at work, pay your taxes,
Right.
Do you like be in the doctor's office? Like, we are like, you go play in the inner sanctuary. Grown up me's going to handle this thing. And then we let the children play. So play, creativity, are such an important part of inner child work. And then do that on repeat 10 times a day for the rest of your life.
And it, and it definitely changes and lessens, and something new comes up and all the things. It probably won't be the same thing forever, but you'll notice like, oh, there's a different aspect of like whatever it is, self-sabotage.
Totally. Like life is never life. I mean, the things that used to trigger my inner child don't anymore, but life has continued to create plenty of circumstances where it still happens.
Right.
So and now I think like I because I've been doing this for so long, I have a lot of money in the bank with my inner child. I do a lot of negotiating, like we're going to work in the morning. I'm going to do this hard, scary thing in the morning. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to be on the podcast. I'm going to do the thing. In the afternoon, we're going to do what you want to do. My inner child really likes taking naps, walking the dog, and watching cartoons. So that's what I do. Thank God they have grown-up cartoons. It's called anime, but but that's what my inner child likes. So and I know that part of me knows I'm good for my word. If I said I'm going to do it, I do it. And that's really created sort of this feeling of internal stability and safety inside of myself that I'm kind of like, it's going to be okay. Whatever happens, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Because like all of you, my grown-up self is pretty competent and good at handling this hard, scary thing. It just goes bad when we expect our child to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, that expectation that a lot of there's a lot of people who grew up and maybe their child, their actual when they grew up, they had to take care of things. They were
Mhm.
maybe more the adult
Yep.
than their own parents, and I think, like you were saying, when we become this consistent source of whatever it is, of safety, of love, of like, I've got this, you can go play. That's really, really important for the nervous system, and something that often comes from this, having a childhood like that, is self-sabotage. And it's probably, I just feel like it's worth noting that self-sabotage is really a nervous system that doesn't feel safe when it's receiving, which I think is really, it's good to break it down because, again, if we grew up in an environment where love was, or anything, but especially love was inconsistent, and where like good things kind of came in, but then they always left, and security was really conditional. Our nervous system, learned something like, well, good things don't last for me. Um, and so then, as adults, when something beautiful happens, like a relationship or an opportunity or a moment of success, a part of us starts dismantling it. And not because the adult wants to really destroy it, but because we it's like the unknown of keeping it feels more threatening than that familiarity of losing it. And
Yeah.
so this talks about, we really want to heal the root uh, of things. And I know Lisa and I both approach healing this way. And so when you do become that consistent source of safety for yourself, you really stop abandoning yourself in the moment. Again, present moment. Now we are taking full responsibility. We're no longer victims of our childhood. And our inner child starts to believe in good things when we're consistent, when we're the consistent source. And they
Yeah.
start to trust that love can stay and that success is allowed, and that, the good isn't gonna, the anything good isn't, like, the rug isn't gonna be pulled out from underneath us. And that's shifting the pattern. That's the reparenting, the repatterning. Um, and not because we're like white knuckling our way through life, but because we took the time, it's the pennies in the savings account, to heal the root and change the root.
I love that. It's such a beautiful way to look at it, Jean. It's really great.
Yeah.
I also think inner child work has incredible impact on our relationships.
Yeah.
So until we learn inner child work, we sort of project our inner child all over the place. And often it goes into a dynamic with the inner child and the inner critic, which are two archetypes that live in our head all the time, and the inner critic's like the part of you that absorb the critical voices of your parents, your siblings, your peers, society,
Yeah.
and gave you all the conditions that you needed to be loved. So it sets up the conditionality. And then even after we grow up, we've internalized that. And now we're doing it to ourselves. So your inner critic's like, you're not good enough. And your inner child's like, I know, I'm terrible. I'm so bad, And then we project that dynamic into the world. So your boss becomes your critical parent. Your partner becomes your critical parent. Your authority figures in your life become the critical parent. And
Yeah.
that causes a lot of problems because you want to see people's inner child happen. Look at what happens in offices, in corporations, and how many people have you seen in your workplace that have had like just epic inner child meltdowns
Yeah.
and, create a lot of havoc that doesn't really need to happen. And then we do that in our relationships too, our romantic relationships, our friendships, every relationship. Something can come up and trigger you and put you in your inner child, which, because in that moment your nervous system is all jacked up and you're in fight or flight, doesn't doesn't do good things for your relationships, creates damage that we then have to clean up. So learning to parent your inner child sort of diminishes that. I don't know if it totally gets rid of that, because we still do it, but it puts the pressure off your partner to take care of you. If you're having an inner child meltdown, is it really fair to expect your partner to take care of you like you're a kid?
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes they do, and it's so sweet when we get that. It's so loving and sweet when we do, but it's not really fair to rely on somebody else to take care of you. And I think, one of the things we need to learn to do is how to take care of ourselves when we're having an epic meltdown, and also how to take care of other people. Because once you start looking into this, you then recognize everybody else's inner child meltdowns when they're happening,
Mhm.
and so managing the meltdowns when they happen internally and in your life is like a really important skill, I think.
Yeah, and you know what happens when after you do this work for a while is you start to have your compassion for humanity grows so big and wide because you realize like, oh, everybody is just a child, a wounded child, a traumatized child walking around in adult bodies.
100%.
And once you see that, you can't really unsee it, and I don't know, at least for myself. And so I have so much more compassion for, um, you know, everybody's meltdowns. Now, I will say I still have boundaries. I'm not going to partake, but I have a lot more compassion. Um, and I feel like, you know, part of this is what it means to really love yourself in a way that actually um, is a part of the reparenting to even do this work. Of course really changes your life when you have this when you have like a deep love for yourself. And um, I feel like, of course, bubble baths and self-care days are amazing and beautiful, and they have their place, but they aren't really the root of self-love.
Mm.
I feel like self-love really uh, is life-changing when you're honoring yourself. You're honoring your own no, you're protecting your energy without needing to necessarily explain yourself. And you're really keeping your promise to yourself even when, nobody's watching, but also when everybody's watching. And also like letting yourself rest without needing to earn something first. So, this is an important piece of the puzzle of this reparenting and inner child work, because it's like you're choosing a relationship, like the relationship with yourself, that is really based in the truth of what you need and not in like a performance and performance, meaning often we're performing to without knowing, but we're performing to receive love in
Yeah.
relationships. And when you truly are filled with self-love, you don't do that. Your love for yourself is like really rooted, and you stop sort of um, finding ways that might actually hurt you. You're not searching for someone else to, like you said, to complete you. You become your own source. And from
Yeah.
that place, relationships become really nourishing rather than like fulfilling a need.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't
And
know.
we
So
could, yeah, so good. We can sort of step out of like the, these patterns that we learn to survive our childhood, like whether it's perfectionism or people pleasing or sort of like isolation, like I don't need anybody, that there are, um, 5 or 6 really deeply studied, survival patterns that also go along with our attachment style. We've talked about attachment in
Yeah.
the, styles in the show before. And we sit into that, and we had to do it to survive our childhood, and then we sort of think it's our personality. We think
Yeah.
it's kind of a fixed part of who we are, that often, isn't healthy for us, isn't, functional in a lot. It's comes with a cost, right? And when we do the inner child work and get secure attachment with ourself, right? Then we can let go of those patterns. If it's perfectionism, people pleasing, addiction is a really common one. The escape artist, the lone wolf, like
Yeah.
I've sort of have the people pleaser plus the lone wolf pattern, and when they're operating, there it's not really who I am. It's just these old survival patterns. Um, and there's, I think, a huge liberation in like being able to let those go and be who we really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if it ever feels overwhelming, like how do I know who's the one speaking right now? We don't need to have all the understanding. We don't need to really know or identify if we don't know. It's more of like just the felt sense. Like it's okay to just be in the present moment, feel what your body's telling you, being aware of any reaction or heat or, you know, whatever the sensation is. Um, and again, just pausing long enough to be like, I'm feeling really reactive right now. Like that's a great start, you know?
Mm.
Alyssa asks, how do we handle when those pieces leave and we feel empty or lost? As I come closer to who I know I am, I tend to feel somehow further away from myself. I hear this a lot actually. More than I don't know. Oh, do you want to go first, Lisa?
I think there's kind of an unsettled feeling when we start shifting our internal identity. We shift who we're identifying ourselves with. Maybe we're used to identifying ourselves with these survival patterns, and kind of the pieces that got created to navigate our childhood. And I think it's okay to feel disoriented, settled. We have to sort of sit with the emptiness of not knowing as we shift our identity into who we really are. And, all the internal process, inner looking, journaling, meditating, feeling your feelings, um, and then I think are important, but also I think this is where play and creativity come in. We sort of want to fill the gap with some positivity. So I think play and creative things, and a lot of times, like when I did this, I was like, I don't even know how to play. I don't even know what that looks like. I forgot. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And rediscovering what play means for you can kind of give you a place to land as you're like exploring who your true nature really is,
Mhm.
So look for the things that put you in that flow state. For me, it's dance and gardening, and I mean, I love the grandma hobby. I'm sort of quiet, so I like doing puzzles and playing with my houseplants and
Hanging
you
out with
know
the cats. Your cat.
Yeah, and
Your
playing with
dog.
my cat, walking my dog, like, but maybe it's like if you're an extrovert, it's like a team thing. You play pickleball or you're gonna bake sourdough bread. You're gonna, do something joyful in your life can kind of and if you look at kids, little kids, that's what they're in this flow state. They're not
Mhm.
thinking about who they are. They're not, they're just playing, laughing, having fun. They're letting their emotions flow in the moment. They're living life in the moment. They're moment by moment, fully occupying each moment. And that that's what the goal, that's what we're going towards. And I don't think we get there without playing around with it, without practicing, without, doing our best to do that as we go along.
Yeah, and it goes back to, honestly, like, our what we were told, the way that we learn, sort of the education system in general, as children is something that's really, um, heady, that's really, like, logical. We sit and we learn facts and figures and all the things, but every single study in the whole wide world says, children learn from play. And so you're learning about the world, we're learning about ourselves through play. And so it's such a good point that Lisa says is like, as adults to get into to know ourselves on a deeper level, um, to just bring in that feeling of playfulness, of curiosity, of trying something. Oh, well, that's not for me. Sort of like kids, like they try soccer. Oh, well, I can't really kick the ball, so let me go try dance. Like it's not so serious. They're just having fun, and
Mm,
learning about life as they go. And so I just want to say also, when those pieces leave and we feel empty and lost, that's we become so conditioned to feel like the heaviness of a trauma, or like it's I always say it's like a wet blanket, that
mhm.
often is like really comfortable and cozy. And like, who are we if we take off the wet blanket? Like, I've even heard people say, well, life isn't just it's not gonna be fun, it's not gonna be interesting if I'm like without
All
all
happy all the time.
if I'm happy all the time, it's gonna be so boring. I've heard that so many times.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so, but the truth is we refill it. We refill that empty space with whatever it is. We're searching, we're learning, just like Lisa said.
mhm,
Find what brings you joy. It's gonna be different for you than it's gonna be for anybody else.
yeah,
Um, and so when we give ourselves that time and space, it's not actually empty, and it's okay to feel lost, because we did lose an like, again, a an identity. We lost a huge part of who we thought we were,
right.
but that was a conditioned part of ourselves. That's not our essence, that's not actually who we are at all. That was a traumatized version of ourselves. And when we shed that, it brings freedom. Now suddenly we have the space, and the freedom to replace it with somebody or something that's more in alignment with like what allows us to sing, to
Mhm.
metaphorically. So just stick with it, Alyssa, just stick with it. You're on the right track. You don't need to bring the proverbial wet blanket back on just because it feels safe
Or familiar.
or familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, my friend Robin Vogel. So glad you're here. And if this is all intriguing to you and you want a lot more of it, then I really invite you to join Jane and I in our Quantum Mystic School of Consciousness. We're starting up another cohort in May 2026. And we only launch this once a year. This is the time is now. So we do 8 months of deep inner work. Be a great answer to your question, Alyssa. How do you know yourself? Take the first year of the consciousness school. And we guarantee that you will know yourself a whole heck of a lot better on the other end of that. As we work through the chakras and we do meditation, we'll give you a lot of different lenses to explore yourself through. It's an incredible program, and our students um, rave about it and talk about how transformative it is. And this is the time. Um, this is the time to do it. So I hope that you
Yeah.
join us there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a powerful program that really asks everybody to go deep. And it's definitely not for the dabblers, it's definitely for the seekers. And I think we might surprise ourselves. It's like, oh wait, yes, this is scary. If it feels scary, then you're on the right path. Because we do ask you to do this work, and for 8 months straight.
Mhm.
And it's super exciting, and this is what Lisa and I are very passionate about. And so, I think bringing the container together, this is like where the buzz is happening, spring is happening, everything's exciting, and people are coming together to specifically be a part of the Quantum Mystic School of Consciousness. Yes, very deep, very transformative. Cindy says, take a before and after picture. You will be changed the best possible way. Cindy is a student in the school, so I love that. We should do before and after pictures. I think that there's absolute truth to that. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Whether you're listening live or you're listening after the fact, we're so glad you're along with us for the journey. And we will look forward to seeing you again real soon.